No. Oh, we are. We're live. Live! Merry Christmas!
What's up, guys?
And you forgot a Happy New Year.
Oh, well, you know, I mean, we're still going to do another CC before then, so
That is
we can
true.
bust that out there.
True. True. True.
Anyway, what's up, guys? Happy Friday, Conversation Corner. Too high to count now. We'll try to tally them towards the end of the year and get you a count on that. But we're bringing you some awesome information today right before the holiday season and hopefully some little tidbits moving into 2019.
What better way to do it than draw an illustration of Santa, thank you, Cassidy,
Yeah.
coming down the chimney and going up out of the chimney. And our theme is, don't be a Grinch. Because we're going to tell you what you need to know closing out 2018 and moving into 2019 and what to expect from a buyer or a seller. Levi,
Yep.
get it.
So a couple things. We've had a really kind of volatile year as far as real estate and the real estate industry goes. It was really crazy at times, really kind of ebbed and flowed back and forth a little bit. A lot of interest rate hikes and things like that. And then some economic and I think political uncertainties which have really played a role in people's decisions of whether or not to sell or to buy in 2018. I think a lot of those fears have settled back a little bit. So moving into 2019, there's some really cool things to come. We have a couple illustrations here on Santa coming down the tree or coming down the chimney. He's going to be bringing presents. If you're a seller, what's he going to bring you?
He's going to bring you equity.
Yeah.
So what we learned in 2018 is the average homeowner, if you will, or seller, has $55,000 in equity in their home. So I want to make something clear. This isn't if you bought a house in 2018. This is if you own a house, the average homeowner has about $55,000 of equity in their house. So that's somebody that bought a house 20 years ago, that bought a house 5 years ago, 8 years ago. They're taking all those averages as far as what the equity is in those houses.
What they earned from
and what they earned from that. So the average homeowner has about $55,000 of equity in their house, which is pretty awesome.
That's a big chunk of change.
That's a nice present.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know. So in 2018, that's something that's good to know as we look at those numbers, because as a seller, you've got money that's sitting in your home.
Right.
So as you go to list, not only are you going to make money from selling your house, but now you also have that equity too that you can take with you to purchase a new house.
Exactly. Yep.
So that represents Santa coming down the chimney and bringing presents to you, seller. And then also, for a buyer, home appreciation rates are starting to come down and will continue to go down is what they're projecting, even for the next 4 years. So we've been at as high as 5% appreciation the last few years. What that means now is we're going to try to get that back to a fair market. What they usually say is around 3%.
Yep.
And you can bet that we're probably going to see that 2019 as the beginning of that, but into 2020 and 2021.
Yeah, and that's a good thing too, because as a buyer, right, you want home prices to continue. You want a constant appreciation rate or more of a stable appreciation rate, which Ryan said is about 3%. That's usually about a historical average. You want to continue that because home is a really good investment, right? You want to be able to have the security of knowing that your home is always going to earn you income or earn you wealth via the equity of the property. But it's also a good thing to know that it's not as crazy as it was this year, parts of this year, or even in the previous year. With home appreciation rates stabilizing a little bit, that's better because it's going to mean that you're not paying above what you should on a property, right? So it's a really good position for a seller or for a buyer to be in, because you know that you're still going to be able to get a good deal and know that you're buying a house which still has room to grow in its value.
Absolutely. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about Santa's now brought the presents and it's time for him to leave.
Okay.
And he's going to go up the chimney. What's going up in 2019, and what are we going to start seeing here with our market, and if you're a buyer or a seller?
Yeah, so the main thing is rates, right? Everybody's paying attention to the Fed hikes and things like that. So we've seen interest rates rise quite a bit since the start of the year, but that's relative, because when we talk about interest rate increases, they're still at historic lows, very historically low. I was actually chatting with a colleague earlier today, and we were talking about how, looking back early in my career and actually early in previous decades, back into the late 90s and the mid 90s and then into the 80s, you're talking about interest rates at that time, averages of anywhere from 15%, 11%, 8%. So we're really still in a great position as far as interest rates. Homes are very affordable still. You can still get a lot of bang for your buck. With that being said, we are seeing rates start to slowly creep up, which means that if you're a buyer, you definitely want to start to look at purchasing sooner rather than later. Get yourself a really low rate while they last. We are expected to see another Fed increase next year, at least one or possibly two. So that's not necessarily a bad thing though. Interest rates need to stabilize. They've been artificially low for too long. We need to see them settle in around the 5 percentile, 5 to 5.5 percentile, kind of across the board. And they will get there eventually. They're not there now, so definitely take advantage of it while you can.
One thing that I want to point out, and I was talking with Levi earlier, is you hear us talk a lot about purchasing power. So if you're a buyer and you want to keep that purchasing power, how that basically comes into effect is when we're talking about that interest rate. So Levi, talk a little bit about like purchasing power and even how just a little bit of change in that interest rate can affect a buyer's monthly payment.
Yeah, purchasing power is basically how much home can you afford, right? What's the purchase price that will get you either the payment that you desire or the maximum that your debt to income ratio will allow? Okay, so that's your purchasing power, your individual purchasing power. Now, every time interest rates go up, your purchasing power goes down a little bit because that means your mortgage payment is going to get a little bit higher with increases in interest rates. So it's not exact math, but basically about every half of a point in interest rate increases cuts into your purchasing power about 5%. So a full interest rate point increase, 1%, would cut your purchasing power by roughly about 10%. Now it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but when we're talking about a 10% cut on $100,000 means now you're only able to purchase a $90,000 house. And even though that doesn't, again, sound like that big of a drastic difference, the caliber of home in even a $10,000 increment or a $15,000 increment, you're getting a much different house at those purchase prices. So it's very important.
That's good. What do you think is the other thing that is going up? I think the other thing that's going up is inventory.
Yes.
So supply and demand, we always talk about that. As a buyer and as a seller, it's good to know that we can continue to see that inventory and we will continue to see that inventory go up. So from a seller standpoint, what does that mean? Well, it means that your house isn't going to sell overnight anymore. Unless, I will say this, because we're still seeing in some cases multiple offers. But your house literally has to be in pristine condition with all the updates and everything so that a buyer, when they're coming to your house, wouldn't have to fix a dang thing. That's the only way that your house would potentially just fly off the market still and wouldn't stay very long. Typically on average, we're seeing houses sit more than 30 days, more than 2 months now. So like it's pretty typical to start seeing those houses, and that's again a sign that we're getting back into that fair market. So know that as a seller. I know we've been saying it a lot, but we just like to reiterate and let that out there. And then also from a buyer standpoint, you're definitely having more inventory to choose from, so you don't have to rush and make a decision that day and put it in an offer, unless again it's that house that is in pristine condition and you're like, I want this house, I need it now. We don't have to fix a thing. That would be one case, one exception, but we're not seeing a lot of that. So,
it's moving into more of a buyer-seller market.
Yes.
This year was a lot of just a seller-strong market. Now we're moving into more of a buyer and seller-friendly market, which is really good for the overall industry as a whole and real estate. It won't be so cutthroat, and it should be really fair for both sides moving into 2019.
Amen to that. 2019, bro.
Already there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we had a good 2018 thanks to you guys. And continuing to follow us, engage with us, answer questions. And we're really excited about 2019 because I think there's a lot of good things happening within our market.
It's going to be good.
And we just got a lot of good things planned too that we're looking forward to as far as servicing our clients, helping them out. And as always, I think we're done here.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys.
You know,
Happy Friday.
enjoy the lovely drawing that Cassidy made with Santa coming down the chimney, out of the chimney. I hope Santa comes to your house.
Yes.
Because I still believe in Santa.
So do I.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Santa!
Why wouldn't you?
I know him. Yeah, I don't actually know him, but that's one of my favorite movies in Elf. So, anyways, love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Until next time, we'll see you after Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
See ya.